I think I got this book poetry thing down. Nailed it. Hello and welcome to Wiggy Reviews. I'm Wiggy and I review books. Friendships are hard. Friendships with egomaniacs are harder. Friendships with egomaniacs who have superpowers? Impossible. But an entertaining read. Today I'm going to be reviewing V.E. Schwab's adult debut novel, Vicious. Victor Vale doesn't make friends easily, but that didn't stop his college roommate Eli Cardale from becoming one of his closest friends. The two are brilliant, arrogant, and lonely, the very qualities that draw them together. But when an experiment involving near-death experiences goes wrong, the two suddenly become mortal enemies. Eli frames Victor, sending him to prison. But Victor has escaped prison and is now seeking revenge. And he's got a couple new friends to help him reach his goal. I've had this book on my to-be-read list for a long time. When I worked at Burns and Nirmals, I remember it standing out whenever I restocked the sci-fi fantasy section. Mostly because it was a blinding red, but also because of the title. Vicious? I mean, what could it possibly be about? Is it about someone who's vicious to others? Is it about a supervillain? Is it about someone who's just an a-hole? And why does the guy on the cover have white hair? My curiosity, as it usually does, won out, and I read the first page of the book to see if I would be interested in it, and ended up reading the entire first chapter. And let me tell you, it did not disappoint. How many books open with a 30-year-old man and a 12-year-old girl walking through a graveyard? Oh, and just casually mentioning that the 30-year-old man just broke out of prison and the 12-year-old girl had just been shot. Huh? Not many books open up like that. But that is exactly how we're introduced to Victor Vale, our main protagonist / anti-hero... maybe villain? And Serena Clarke, a young girl that Victor picked up on the side of the road after noticing she had a bullet wound. Okay. V.E. Schwab instantly sucks you in from the very first chapter, and it does not let you go until the end. The first half of the book flashes back and forth between the present, which is taking place mostly in a hotel where Victor is kind of planning his revenge, and 10 years prior, when Victor was in college. We learn about Victor's college life, including his odd habit of sharpieing out pages of books to create poetry. See the beginning. And his friendship with Eli Cardale, his roommate turned best friend and then turned nemesis. We also learn about Angie Knight, who is the love interest of Eli Cardale, but also kind of there was like a thing where Victor kind of liked her but wouldn't admit it, but he was jealous of Eli and Angie hooking up and whatever. During Eli and Victor's comprehensive science seminar, say that 3 times fast, Victor and Eli's professor requests everyone to start to name what they want to do for their thesis. Victor throws out some random thing that he just thought of the top of his head, like, oh, I can do this. So it had something to do with adrenaline and the body's fight or flight system. But Eli chooses EOs, or more precisely, an argument for the theoretical feasibility of the existence of extraordinary EO people, deriving from laws of biology, chemistry, and psychology. Yes, I had to look at that to make sure I got that right, because I could not remember that sentence to save my damn life. Basically, people with superpowers. Or extraordinary abilities. Superheroes. But Eli wants to do more than just write a thesis on EOs. He actually wants to discover how they come to be. And Victor's thesis kind of gives him an idea. After researching as much as possible about the very few recorded events of EOs, Eli comes to the conclusion that the one thing they all had in common was a near-death experience. But that's also not enough for Victor. Victor wants to test Eli's theory. So under the watchful gaze of Eli, Victor overdoses on painkillers and alcohol. And at the very last minute, right before he flatlines, Eli chickens out and brings him back to life, basically making that attempt a failure. The first attempt, anyway. The next attempt is Eli's turn. Filling a bathtub with ice, Eli attempts to freeze to death, with Victor standing watch to revive him. And after a little bit of a struggle to get him back to life, Victor is able to revive Eli, but it appears that the second attempt is a failure as well, as there is no extraordinary ability they can feasibly find on Eli. So they go to a bar and get drunk. Like you do when a science experiment fails. You go get drunk. And as they are stumbling back home, Eli cuts his hand on a piece of glass. And to both men's amazement, they just stand there and watch as the wound on his hand magically stitches itself back together, proving that Eli's attempt actually was a success. That is a hard word for me to say. Success. Victor longs to make a second attempt after it has been proven that EOs actually exist and can be made. But he kind of realizes that Eli doesn't really want to help him do that. So Victor just decides to do it by himself. He enlists the help of Angie, and by enlist, I mean he tricks her into thinking that he has been poisoned and that he needs to be electrocuted to save himself. It was a very complicated explanation. It was all sciencey gobbledygook to me. But she does help him, and he eventually does experience his own near-death experience, and when he's revived, he has this ability. But it is so hard to control that he accidentally kills Angie. And in a panic, he calls Eli and is like, "Yo, man, I did it. I am an EO now. And also, I kind of killed your girlfriend." Yeah, and Eli, I think, responded rightfully. He called the police on Victor. And the police come and they arrest Victor, and it instantly becomes clear that the police actually have been trained to deal with EOs. After being placed in a cell, Victor manages to escape and rushes back to his shared apartment with Eli to confront him and be like, "Dude, why'd you call the police on me? I could have called the police on you, but I didn't." And Eli goes through this big long tangent about how you're not my friend anymore. You killed Angie. You obviously can't be my friend anymore. You're a devil in Victor's skin. And then they have a little fight. But I guess before I go any further, I should explain what Victor's ability was. You see, Victor when he came back from his near-death experience, he could shut off or amplify pain. And I know that doesn't sound like a big thing, but he can amplify existing pain. So if you have like an existing pain, he can make it worse. And pain can kill you because you can go into cardiac arrest and that kind of stuff. And other things, of course. But he knew he was going to be fighting Eli, so he shut off his own pain receptors, and he stabs Eli, and he's like, "I learned something. I thought about it, and I learned that you can't heal yourself if I don't take the blade out." Badass, man. But Eli has a gun, and you know what they say, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. So Eli shoots Victor, but Victor can't feel the pain, so he just kind of keeps going. But even though Victor can shut off the pain, he can't really stop blood loss. So he passes out because he's just been bleeding out, even though he can't feel the pain. And then Eli calls the police again. Victor gets taken away, and he goes to prison. In prison, Victor meets Mitch Turner, who is not an EO, but he soon becomes a very reliable ally to Victor because he is very smart, and he is a hacker, and he's also this really big muscular guy. So he's like, I got someone who can be my muscle. He's smart and can hack systems for me so I can like find Eli. So it was like a perfect melding of two men who really did not care about each other, but really start to build not a friendship, but an understanding that they work well together. I guess it was very interesting. And that's all in the first half of the book. I didn't mention a lot of the present stuff because it was all the same, just basically Victor trying to find Eli and start his planning of what he wants to do. But the second half of the book is all about Victor's revenge plan on Eli. And you learn that these past 10 years, Eli has basically taken it upon himself to go out and exterminate all the EOs. Because he's kind of gotten this big God complex now, where he's like, God gave me this power, obviously, to get rid of EOs, because I saw what it did to my friend. My friend had the devil in him, and I know I don't, so obviously I'm supposed to go and clear out the EOs. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not a statement on religion. It kind of comes off that way, because Eli is written as that one of the things that irritates Victor about Eli is his religion, and he is religious. But V.E. Schwab does not write it in the way where it's like, that defines him 100%. It just was kind of something that it led to him believing that he was destined for a higher purpose. But it's not a commentary on it, you know? Anyway, so he's been going around killing all the EOs, except for one. There's one EO that he cannot kill. I mean, no, that's my cat, ignore her. And that EO is Serena Clarke. Her extraordinary ability keeps Eli from killing her. And what is this power, you're probably wondering? Well, she can control anyone just by her words. And it can be the smallest suggestion to like the grandest of declarations. Whatever she says, and if you hear her say it, then you do it. And Eli has used this power to his advantage as well. And she's used this power on Eli to tell him, like, you can't kill me. And just because of that, he can't kill her. And Eli soon realizes that he doesn't fully understand her ability, because I guess when people witness her ability, they don't fully get the idea of what's happening to them. But he understands that she has this strange power to be able to get people to do whatever she wants. He doesn't fully understand how it works. So he uses that ability to have the police help him in his extermination of EOs. It's like, it's so messed up and brilliant. But you're probably saying, like, Clarke, that sounds very familiar. Why do I know that name? And it's because Serena Clarke is the older sister of Sydney Clarke, the 12-year-old girl that is hanging out with Victor now, who was shot. You see, Sydney and Serena got their abilities at the same time, when they both fell through a frozen lake and froze to death, but then were revived. Sydney's power, however, is the ability to bring anyone back from the dead just by touch. And she can do it as many times as is needed. So if somebody dies, she touches them, they come back to life. If they die again, she touches them, they come back to life. It's such an interesting thing for a 12-year-old girl to have, because, you know, you don't expect kids to have something so dark. Anyways, when Serena met Eli, he convinced her that, oh, your sister has abilities too? Oh, well, you know, it's not your sister anymore. It's a demon inside your sister. She's not your sister anymore, and we have to save her. We have to kill her. And so he convinces her to bring, convinces Serena to bring Sydney to him, and he shoots her. But she's able to get away, and that's when she bumps into Victor, and Victor realizes, oh my gosh, Eli's close. We're in the same town. Great! Now I can really start planning my revenge. And he also immediately sees the potential in Sydney's abilities, and is like, I gotta hang on to this girl, because she could help me with my plans. So now, all the players are in place. Victor, Mitch, and Sydney have to stop Eli and Serena from killing all of the other EOs in the world. Okay, just kidding. Victor doesn't care about the other EOs. He really doesn't. He is 100% in this just to get revenge on Eli and make him suffer for what he did to him. Hence the protagonist / anti-hero, maybe villain? When I first introduced Victor. And I'm not going to lie, I loved this book. I especially loved the characters if it wasn't obvious. Victor Vale is an arrogant smartass that I actually kind of want to get to know, you know? Mitch Turner, the big cellmate that helped Victor escape prison, is hilarious. He's like I said, he's like the 6 foot muscle guy, but the first thing he wanted to do when they got out of prison was just have a chocolate milk. And he, like, has them all over the place, and he just sips them, and he's like, oh, I got my chocolate milk, I'm happy. Whatever you want, Vic, I'll do it. Sydney is adorable, but her chapters are also very tragic. Like, the betrayal of her sister, the fact her power keeps her body at a, like, always freezing cold. Even Doll, the dog she saves, it's just tragic, but, I mean, she is adorable. Eli starts as this guy you kind of want to get to know, like, you're thinking, oh, why isn't he the protagonist of this book? But then you see his slow fall into insanity just over the brief chapters back in college, and then when you come back to him 10 years later, like, it was brilliant because it completely twists the idea of the traditional hero versus villain story, and it makes it very fun. No one is truly a hero, and no one is truly a villain. The lines are blurred and twisted in new ways, and it just keeps you reading. The powers of the characters are beyond interesting. Even the more traditional ones, such as Eli's invincibility, I mean, they're each unique, or at the very least, such a mix of differing strengths and weaknesses. Like, even though Eli has this invincibility, he still feels pain when he gets stabbed or shot or whatever, and, like, that kind of sucks. And then Victor, he can shut off his pain, and he can amplify pain around him, but even if he shuts it off, he can still die if he doesn't realize, oh crud, I broke my arm. Like, it's a weird balance of the powers, and nobody is, by definition, all-powerful. I mean, maybe the closest person who gets to it is Serena Clarke with her superpowered manipulation, but even then, you have to hear her say, the words. If I had to make a complaint, it would just be the flashbacks to college. There were times where I could see where she was going with the experiments of the near-death experiences, and I was like, just get to it already. Get to it. And I guess it didn't feel like those chapters were as much building up the character of Victor as they were of introducing Eli and kind of getting that perspective. So I feel like there was a lot of things that could have been shortened. But that's my personal opinion. I don't know. But once I hit the second half of the book, I mean, it was full speed until the end. I was fully hooked and fully engaged and trying to guess the twists and turns that Victor was planning for Eli. I did not get them, but I made a good attempt. And I've also heard, and there's also a sequel out now called Vengeful, and I'm very excited to read that. I mean, it's been out for a while. I know you're all saying, it's been out for a while! I know, but I'm behind in my reading, of course, like everyone else in the world, because books keep coming out. But I'm excited. I want to read the second one, and I can't wait. So, what rating could I give Vicious? I will give it a 5 out of 5 for me, because even that one thing I complained about, like, it was not even, that is just being a nitpicky bitch, really. Like, I've had worse books that have dragged so much information and dragged you along, and I've given very low scores to those, but this one I think did it well. And I mean, it was her first adult novel, so you have to kind of give a little bit for that. Definitely check this book out if you are a fan of superhero stories with a twist. Even if you aren't a fan of superhero stories, you can definitely check out this character just for the superb characters and the revenge story at the heart of it. And that has been my review of V.E. Schwab's Vicious. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this review and want to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because that's what I have to say. I know you're probably sick of hearing that from everybody you watch, but I gotta say it. Also, don't forget to tell everyone in the comments what weird, non-traditional superpower would you like if you could become an EO? Me personally, my unusual superpower of choice would be to have the insane ability to go unnoticed. Not invisible, just unnoticed. Let that fester in your brain for a little bit. And that has been my main review for the month. Next week, next Saturday, will be another quickie review, and it's going to be a single book, not a series, but it's one that was actually recommended to me when I worked at Burns & Noodles from one of my coworkers, and it's a funny book, but it's like a mix of Shel Silverstein, those little weird poetry books, and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams books. It's like those got together and had a big baby, and yeah, I can't wait to share it with you guys. So make sure that's why you need to hit that notification bell so you can know when I publish that video next. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll read you later.